Hi, I'm Nicole Reilley. Welcome to the Clergy Wellness Podcast. This is Season 1, Episode 3, Mindful Mornings. Today we will also look at a wellness practice of the week, what is making this week good, and a mindfulness meditation. Let's jump in. Love is the foundation of the Christian life. Jesus' call to love God and to love our neighbors is something I think we all know about. Yet as pastors, we often have a hard time living as though this love covered us as well. A couple weeks ago, I was beyond exhausted. I hadn't been feeling great, and so it was kind of a big push to get everything done. I was trying to rest more, get more sleep at night, but it just really wasn't helping. I was tired physically, and mentally I was pretty exhausted. And now I recognize that the coming Sunday was Youth Sunday. And that is run by the youth director and the associate pastor and the youth group. And it would have been really easy for me to take that Sunday off and watch online. But honestly, I went back and forth with it all week. Should I do it? Shouldn't I do it? Now, if my associate pastor had been feeling like how I was feeling, there is no question I would have encouraged her to take a Sunday off. But me? Certainly, I could just push myself a little bit more. Here's the thing. God's love is for you. And for me, it is for us all, even, maybe especially, for us as pastors. Now, why do I say that? Well, pastors carry a heavy load, often caring for people, leading worship, managing staff, and then finding time for our own lives. We run from meeting to meeting and commitment to commitment. The pace of ministry is often inhumane, with night meetings, early morning hospital visits, and oftentimes what feels like no real days off. We run on adrenaline, sugar, and coffee. We need some love. How can we help ourselves in a way that is actually doable? I think the doable part is really important, because so much of what is suggested just doesn't feel really doable. Here's a simple practice I'd like to recommend because it's been very helpful to me. I invite you to do this. Sit quietly in a comfortable place. Could be with your morning beverage. You don't even have to close your eyes, but if you want to, you can. And then just give yourself a couple minutes. 5 would be ideal, but I recognize that may not be possible. And as you sit there, just ask yourself this question. How do I feel? And then listen for the answer. Now, if this is a new question, it may take a while for you to hear anything. Oftentimes, I think we're fairly unconnected with ourselves, but don't worry about it. If you continue to ask this, you will hear an answer. And even if you're not so good with knowing how you feel, just keep asking yourself gently and lovingly. And then move to the second question. What do I need to take care of myself today? Like the first question, you may not know, but pause and listen to hear if anything arises to the surface. This is just a simple practice. 2 simple steps, asking yourself how you feel and asking yourself, what do you need to take care of yourself? It's part of a mindfulness practice, I think, because it's about helping us move our attention to our own life, our own needs, the state of our own heart. Now, this may sound a little weird, but think of it this way. How often do you ask others in your life, your family and your friends, how they feel? I'm going to guess it's pretty often. It's a normal part of checking in with others. I want to encourage you to do this with yourself, to check in with how you are. When I started this practice, I would sit with my large morning cup of Earl Grey tea and ask myself, how do I feel? And I didn't know. And if I had to give an answer, I would say, I feel fine. What does that even mean? As I kept doing it, I noticed that during the day, I became a little more in touch with how I felt. And one thing that helped was moving from asking my head how I felt to asking my body. And when I asked my body how I felt, I was able to notice a tight muscle in my back or tiredness in my legs. Most of these things I would have just passed over, given it no real attention, but now I noticed. I started focusing there. How did my body feel? Light, heavy, tight, loose, tired, rested? Getting in touch with my physical body opened a door for feeling more than just fine. So, how are you? If you listen to your body, what would it say? What would you notice in your body? If you aren't sure, just listen. And then the second question, what can I do to take care of myself today? Well, this question helps us pause and then to look at our day with new eyes. Is the day task after task? Is there something you are looking forward to during the day? Now, don't hate me, but I write my sermon on Mondays. Monday is a long day with research and writing and editing and printing, and I often download the previous week's Sunday worship and post just the sermon on YouTube and send it off to be transcribed and post the podcast, all these kind of things. So when I get to 3 p.m., I am beat. I am totally and completely exhausted. Now I do a bit of yoga, or I take a nap, or I put my feet up, or I listen to a podcast. I love writing sermons and preaching. It has always been the center of my call, but it is frankly exhausting. And after I've done the work, I need some major self-care. Over the years, I have become more mindful of what I've needed, and that has helped me enjoy the day more by taking better care of myself, by giving myself more space and time and love. So look at your calendar. What do you need to add in that would be helpful, or take out that you can in order to care for yourself? Maybe it just is what it is, and that's how the day is going to go, but what might you do later? What might you do tomorrow? Now, I don't always have time to ask myself how I feel and what do I need to take care of myself. But when I have done this, it has really been an opportunity to care for myself, to know myself better, and to take my stress down a couple notches. I want to also share a little bit more about mindfulness, what it is and why it matters for us as clergy. So what is mindfulness? I think it's a term a lot of us hear, but what does it exactly mean? Well, mindfulness is a basic human ability to be fully aware, to be present, to not be overly reactive or to not be checked out. Mindfulness is the ability that we all possess, although many times we may feel that we've lost that ability because life gets so crazy. Honestly, I think many people struggle to be in the moment. That can be because we feel anxious, or we feel overwhelmed, or we feel distracted. Sometimes it's just the adrenaline of daily life. Sometimes we shy away from being present because it's uncomfortable. We may find in the midst of a meeting or in the midst of in a difficult situation with staff, that we find ourselves overwhelmed. We find ourselves concerned. We find ourselves unable to really process all the things and information. And a lot of times what happens is in the midst of these situations, because we're human and because ministry gets to be a lot, we push away from the experience of the moment. And we do that through a variety of ways. We might eat too much or drink too much or shop to escape, or we might just leave the office and stop answering the phone. We might just pull away. That's normal. That's human stuff. Everybody does it. The goal of mindfulness is to wake up to the inner workings that we have, our own thinking and emotions, our feelings in our body, and how all of this relates to what we're dealing with. And to do this with compassion. That's the key. To do it with compassion. Mindfulness has never been about emptying the mind. You're not going to empty the mind. The mind was created to think thoughts. It always has, it always will. I share that because sometimes folks shy away from mindfulness or meditation because they have an expectation they have to empty their mind. That's not what we are talking about. Becoming more mindful is something we can all do. It helps us become more present in our lives. Instead of focusing on the past or the future, we're mindful of what is in front of us. As Christians, we are people of incarnation, meaning as people of faith, we understand that the physical body matters and that being present in that body is an important part of what it means to be incarnational. I have heard it said that you can only experience God in the now, meaning that our minds, which are often in the past or the future, miss out to God's presence here and now. As I record my podcast tonight, I'm looking out my window at the beautiful sky and all the clouds, the trees, one that's in the process of coming together by bearing some beautiful apples, and one that is long dead and probably will never do anything but end up in a fire. Mindfulness is about seeing what is and being fully present now. So here's the thing. All of this is a process. It's a process of figuring out who we are and where we are and being present in that time. And I want to encourage you just to be more present for this moment. Just as you're listening to the podcast, look around you. It's not about big goals. It's just about gradually building, being present in your body and being present in your life. Because that, my friends, will lead you to much more wellness. Let's look at our wellness practice of the week. This is a section of the show where I share something that we can do to feel a bit better. And so this week I want to encourage you to build a little mindfulness practice for your morning. I recognize asking yourself how you feel and then what you need may stress you out. So here's a couple other ideas that you might try. Number 1, listen. Just take a moment in the morning and pause and listen. Are there birds? Maybe kids in the distance playing? Maybe the TV downstairs? Just pause and notice it. It's interesting, but giving our full attention to one thing, like listening to what's going on, brings refreshment to our lives. It helps us to be more present, and that is more grounding. Number 2, check in. Take a moment and notice any tension or sensation in your body. If you notice tightness, just take a moment to notice it and to breathe deeply, almost breathing into that space and relaxing. And if you have pain, take a moment to address it. by rubbing it, or giving it some focused compassion, or maybe doing some stretching. Whatever you need to do to take a little bit better care of your body today. And number 3, remember, reflect on why you got into ministry. What was your call? Remember what drew you to the church, and let yourself relive a moment of ministry that brought you joy. We are at the point where this is the close of the end of the year for a lot of Methodist clergy. It can be filled with a lot of emotion. And if you're changing appointments this year, it can be a really stressful time. But just pause and remember and celebrate all that has been and all that will be. And so be good to you this week and try a moment of mindfulness. What's making this week good? And this section is for me to share something that's improved my life with the hope that it would help you look for the little good things. This week, naps are making this week good. Now, I have always pretty much taken a nap on Sundays, but lately I have noticed I've needed some more downtime. At first, I wasn't really happy about that because who has more time for downtime and naps? But I noticed that since Friday is my usual day off, I thought I'd let myself rest more on Fridays. I don't always sleep when I take a nap, but I will put my feet up and put on a podcast or an audiobook. I'm just finishing up a book by Shannon Abels that was recommended to me called Living the Simple, Luxurious Life. And I'm also listening to Learned Hopefulness. I'll probably share more about that book on an upcoming episode. So, downtime, naps, and audiobooks are making this week good for me. What's making this week good for you? Mindfulness Meditation. Take a moment and take in a deep breath. Relax. Be present. If your shoulders are up, let them relax down. If your jaw is tight, let it relax for a moment. I want you to remember who you are. You are God's beloved. And I want you to remember in whose image you were created, in the image of God. As I read these words, I invite you to just listen to them and to let yourself breathe them in, letting them give you today a sense of life and hope. In Isaiah 40:31, it says, "But they who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. But they who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint." Remember these words, and may they give you life. Thanks for listening. I appreciate you. I invite you to subscribe, rate, review, and share this podcast. If you could share it in your clergy networks, I would really appreciate it. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Nicole Reilley Coaching. You can also learn more about the work I do as a coach and also as a social media manager at NicoleReilley.com. Reilley spelled R-E-I-L-L-E-Y. L-L-E-Y. Today, I invite you to make the important choice to embrace a life of wellness. See you next week, my friends.